every single guy I hired him and said to myself, crap, how am I gonna keep this guy busy?
Jared Williams.
What's up, man?
Good to see ya.
Yeah,
Here we are again.
here we are again.
Podcast.
Podcast Wednesday.
Yeah, dude. I think we should always call it Podcast Wednesday, no matter what day it is.
Oh yeah, totally. It's always Wednesday.
I mean, time is just a construct, you know what I'm saying?
Time is just construct, and it really doesn't matter what day it is, to be honest with you. I don't really know the difference.
They all kind of blend together.
Yeah, they do.
Except for one day I go to church and then the other days I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I went yesterday to see about getting my finger broken.
Mm-hmm. How'd that go? Well, hold on. Why do you want to get your finger broken?
So I have this one finger. So I can bend this knuckle, but I can't bend this one.
Oh, yeah.
So I broke the tip of this finger off. It's pretty nasty looking. Like you can see it in there.
Yeah.
So for people who are listening, not on YouTube, it's my right hand ring finger. It's the last knuckle.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that knuckle has a name, but it's that.
The little pointy part.
The pointy part.
The little pointy part. That's
no, it's the last knuckle.
Yeah, the little pointy part.
I slammed my finger in a van door,
Mm-hmm.
and it took the end of my finger like off. It was just hanging by a little piece of skin, and I had my glove on. No, I didn't have my glove on.
Oh.
That's a different finger story. I remember I looked over at my hand. I held my hand upright, and and my finger was dangling. So I just quickly flipped my hand over.
Oh,
I was like,
geez.
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And ran inside, got some toilet paper on it. My wife wasn't home at the time. She was out for a run. And I went and grabbed my dad. I was living next to my dad at the time. And I was like, Dad, I got to go to the hospital. He was like, what'd you do? And I pulled the paper towel off, and the finger went bloop. And he was like, oh, yeah, you do.
Dude.
And dude, I remember, like, my dad, he's a slow driver. He drives a Subaru, if that tells you anything.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, I have never seen him drive so fast. He's running red lights, going 80 miles an hour. And I'm like, dang, man. And I
see where I got it from.
It was no. It was like producing enough adrenaline in me to where I didn't think about the finger.
Yeah, because you're just thinking about life and surviving this crazy car ride.
I was like, this is crazy. My dad's like turned over a whole new leaf, right?
Yeah.
And we get to the hospital, and I go, hey, I'm holding my finger like this with, paper towel around it. I'm like, hey, I severed the end of my finger off, and it's hanging on by a little piece of skin. I need to get it sewed back on.
Yeah.
And the lady's like, okay, here's some paperwork. Go have a seat, And I'm thinking like they're going to rush me in there.
Yeah.
No, I can't fill out paperwork. My dad's filling out the paperwork, and I'm just sitting there, and then all of a sudden the adrenaline's gone. And then my finger started to hurt.
Dude, I bet.
Yeah. And they made us sit there for a good hour.
A whole hour?
Dude, I'm like, I'm starting to get worried about this thing, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, finally we get back there. I get some shots in my finger, get the pain to go away. The next morning, rushed into surgery, they sew it back on, and they put a pin in it. So they put a pin in through the tip of the finger all the way back to that second knuckle. So I couldn't use this knuckle for a few months.
Right.
And then when they finally took the pin out, which is kind of a crazy feeling, because you literally they just pull that pin out. You watch them, and you would think it's going to hurt, but it's like, it feels good. It's like removing pressure out of your finger, and you feel it pulling out, and it's like, oh man, that feels good. Like then when it's out, you're like, yes.
Yeah.
Well, long story short, I haven't been able to bend that knuckle ever since. It just kind of like fused together.
Sure. Yeah.
After having that pin in there for so long and then not moving it. And it like bothered me a little bit at work because I couldn't, it constantly gets caught on stuff or whatnot.
Right.
But it never really bothered me. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to take up shooting.
Mm-hmm.
And now when I grab the handle of my gun, my finger's sticking out.
Mm-hmm.
And when you shoot, you really want to get your second hand on there and get so your first hand, you're like gripping the handle of the gun. I got my gun here. So you're like gripping like this way on your gun.
Mm-hmm.
And then your second hand, you're supposed to come in here and grip, this way on your gun, side to side.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you can see, but my finger sticks out.
Yeah, it's not flush. It's
it
not
won't
flush,
go in.
people. Not flush.
Yeah, it's not flush. So when I go
Nope.
to get this other hand on there, I have a really hard time like grabbing my gun real good.
Yeah.
And it affects my shooting. So I was like, hey, I'm gonna see if we can just go in and maybe we can break it again and get it fused bent.
Bent. So it's just, can you fuse it right to this pistol? That's what I want.
Dude, I was gonna bring this in. I told him I was thinking in my head, okay, when I'm in there, I'll just tell him like I can bring my gun in to the surgery room and you can like make it fit, right?
You can use it like a mold,
Yeah. But they were like, no, that's a bad idea.
Yeah, just breaking the finger in general.
Yeah, they said, if you break it, it may not heal correctly, and then you have a whole other host of problems.
Yeah,
and
gotcha. Yeah, sure, of course.
Yeah, so my mind immediately was like, well, maybe I should just ask him to cut it off. And then I was like, as I thought about that, like thought about my finger missing, the tip of it gone, I was like, no.
They probably wouldn't have done it either. They probably would have been like, so you want to electively cut your finger off? But yeah.
Yep.
So I can hold my gun.
Yeah, and I'm telling them that. I'm like, I can't shoot. And they're like, well, do you rely on shooting for your income? And I was like, not yet. Maybe someday.
Working on it.
Yeah, working on it.
He must have been like, who is this guy? He wants us to come in here and break his bent finger to shoot when it doesn't even mean anything.
Yeah. Yeah. So they told me I got to learn to shoot with my left hand.
Yeah.
Which offers I'm right eye dominant. So, and you're supposed to shoot with both eyes open. And so when you hold a gun with your left hand and your right eye dominant, you're staring at it kind of at an angle, and you have to cock your wrist to line it up with your right eye. And it's just really awkward.
Well, you're supposed to shoot with it horizontal like this anyway.
Like I need to like move
like this. Gangster style.
Oh yeah, sideways.
That's what you're supposed to do. So it doesn't matter. You just shoot it like this, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, cool. So I'm right. Okay, that's good to know.
We'll take you out shooting and see how accurate you are.
It's not about accuracy. It's about looking cool. Yeah. Who cares what you hit? It's just, hey, it's intimidating.
Yeah. No, it's about accuracy. Yeah, that's it. That's what I've been up to.
Considering your finger and how to break it.
Yeah.
Dude, that's
long story short. We're going to start shooting with Jared, where you can come shoot with me for a day.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
At some point in time. Yeah, it'll be cool. Yeah. As soon as our website is done, we'll have it up there. You can come hang out. We'll talk about your plumbing business. We'll shoot guns, have a good time, take you out to eat.
Yeah, that sounds like a good time.
Yeah, it'll be cool.
And then everybody who does that, they'll be that much closer to getting to the point where you are, to where they can worry about if they want to break one of their ligaments to fulfill their hobbies, because they don't have to worry about their plumbing business.
Yep, exactly.
So everybody listening, like that's what's on the other side of this whole plumbing business thing.
It's awesome.
Sitting in bed going, I wonder if they could break my finger.
Yeah.
What would that look like?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And our coaching program is up and running. You got, if anybody needs plumbing business coaching, then there's a link in the description down below. If you're listening on a podcast, you can go to, I don't even know, go to our YouTube channel and click the link in the description.
There's something out there for you to go to. Promise.
Yep. It's going to be good. It's a good program. You can learn a lot, how to run your business, exactly how I run it, exactly how I grew from 0 to 5 million in just a few years. We give you everything you need, calculators, SOPs, all the guidance, how you need to think about things, the steps you need to do, and the order you need to do them. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I got a question, which sort of ties into that, specifically about a pricing calculator, where there's a lot of them out there, and I think they're a great tool.
Yep.
And in my mind, the best thing about them is that you can just see, like, man, this is what I need to charge for my hourly rate, which is like a huge eye opener for tons of people. that they just are like, oh my gosh, I'm so underpriced. What's another thing that a good pricing calculator will have that will help you sort of help you run your business beyond just showing what you should charge?
Yeah, so it's a good indicator of, well, at least my pricing calculator.
Hmm.
If you need a pricing calculator, you can download it. It's in the link below. Um, but probably one of the best things about it is you can use your calculator as a judge
Mm,
of how risky it is to move forward with something. So,
sure. Okay.
like my calculator, it will tell you how much it's going to cost you to run your business, and then once you figure that out, it will also tell you how much time you need to bill out to the customer in order to break even, hit 10%, 20%, or 30% profit margins. So it'll tell you daily and weekly.
Sure.
And then
Gotcha.
you can calculate monthly depending on the month, right? Some
Hmm.
months have 4 weeks, some months have 5. Um, and so the cool part about that is you can go into that calculator and you can kind of speculate, right? You can say, okay, what does it look like
Mm-hmm.
if I add on another guy? And
Hmm.
maybe with that guy, so I have labor, I have maybe another van, maybe some fuel, and maybe I need to do a little bit more marketing. How does that affect how many hours I need to bill out to the end user?
Right.
Like, because you get a good, like a lot of times it's less than you think because it's
Yeah.
so
Sure.
easy
Sure.
when you're growing your business and you're like, man, I don't have enough work for this extra guy. Well, if you can hire a guy and you only need to sell 1 more hour a day, dude, you could probably go do some more marketing and be able to sell that 1 extra hour, right?
Yeah.
So it just kind of eases that
Sure.
anxiety of hiring another guy, and it really lets you know, oh, this is actually a good idea. I actually
Yeah.
should probably do this, right?
Yeah. It
Because
sheds light when you had no idea.
right. Yep. And it's like just taking a deep dive and looking at the numbers, and it just tells you so much
Yeah.
when you can understand your numbers.
Hmm.
Um, it just tells you a ton, right?
Hmm.
And the cool part, like second cool part, if you use a pricing calculator and you know your numbers well enough, so you know all of your expenses, you know exactly how that correlates to, how many billable hours you're getting and how that correlates to your hourly rate and then how that correlates to your profit percentage. At the end of the month, you can then go look at a P&L,
Hmm. Hmm.
and then you have a really good look into your business,
Right.
right? And it gives you a really good comparison there. You can say, okay, I sold enough hours according to my calculator. And then you can go to your
Mm.
P&L and go,
Sure.
okay, according to my calculator, I should have hit 20% profit, but my P&L is saying I only hit 15. Like,
Right. Where's the
where's that
discrepancy?
extra 5%?
Yeah.
Then you can start going and doing some digging and you can figure that out. Right. But because it might not be that you're not charging enough. It might be something
Hmm.
else. It might
Hmm.
be you underestimated your material costs,
Hmm.
or you might have this big inefficiency going on that you didn't realize.
Hmm.
And you'll find those, but only if you know where to look.
Right.
And so if you
Huh.
can have those two to compare and
Hmm.
go, okay, where do I go look? How I got to start digging into this a little deeper. It's just a lot of powerful insight.
Yeah. How much of that do you still do in your plumbing business?
So we still look at the numbers weekly,
Yeah.
right?
Cool.
So we track hours sold, how many hours we build out to the customer. We track that every Friday. It goes into a spreadsheet. Me and my manager go over it. We track, you know, um, what profit percentage that was. We track bank account balances weekly. We also track our P&L monthly. We go in,
Hmm.
we put in profits over the month, and then we go back and look at the weeks and make sure that our hours, you know, what our calculator is telling us and what our
Hmm.
P&L is,
Hmm.
make sure there's
Hmm.
not a big discrepancy there.
Gotcha.
So, yeah,
Huh.
we look at it quite a bit. The numbers will tell you a lot because you can have
Right.
a
Mm.
feeling about your business,
Sure.
but your feelings can lie to you, right? Or your
Yes.
feelings can misguide you.
Yes.
But if you just look at the numbers, that's just data, right?
Right.
So you can look at these data sets and you can say, and then you can come to a good conclusion of, oh, I can actually just change this thing and I actually get a better result
Right.
just by
Mhm.
looking at the data,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, you don't have to come up with this new idea that didn't occur to you or
Yep.
think of this new inspiration. This is how we can make more money. You can just look at the
Yep.
numbers and then they can tell you the story.
Yeah. So I'll give you like one example of something that we've been looking at lately. I've got a couple of my guys, I've got two of my guys that one of them consistently bills, like last year, he billed out like $950,000. Okay.
Mhm.
And then I have one other guy, he billed out like 850 or 880, somewhere in there, just under nine.
Mhm.
And the rest of my guys build out like 600. So
Mhm.
big discrepancy there, right?
Yeah, it's huge.
So if I could get more guys like those two guys
Mhm.
that are billing out 200,000 more than my other seven guys, like imagine if I had, even if I just got four more guys that could bill out $200,000 more
Mhm.
each, right? That's
Mhm.
another $800,000 in income
Yep.
just by upgrading those guys.
Yep.
So what if I
Mm.
paid those guys in order to get those guys? What if I
Mm.
paid them $50,000 more
Mhm.
each guy?
Yeah.
I'm still $600,000 ahead, right?
Yeah, you're still good.
Yeah. So I'm looking at my numbers and I'm going and my data and my profit percentages on these guys. And I'm looking at it and go, okay, what happens if I trade these out for these speculative numbers
Mm.
and I pay
Mhm.
all of my guys this much higher wage rate to
Mhm.
make it look to make it way more attractive to come work at my company
Mhm.
and I get four more A players,
Mhm.
all of a sudden I have a way safer business, number one,
Right.
because now I don't just have two A players, I've got
Mm.
six, right?
Right.
So if two of them left, I've still got four.
Yep.
And then I
Yeah.
have a
Yep.
system in place for attracting more A players, right?
Yep.
And the chances of them leaving go down too because they're
Sure,
all
they're
making
making it.
more money now.
Yep.
So in this, like we're thinking about changing, like paying way more
Sure.
than we currently are. Even though we
Mhm.
already pay more than everybody else with better benefits,
Mhm.
I'm like, let's make this even sweeter.
Mhm.
And then let's go get the top talent that's out there in the town. Because I
Yeah.
know there's talent that would probably come work for me if we made it so sweet it was ridiculous, you
Right.
know? Kinda
Right.
like in Alex Hormozy's book, 100 Million Offer. If
Mhm.
anybody hasn't read that, they should. It's
Yep.
basically like make the offer so good they feel
Yeah.
stupid saying no, right?
Yep.
That's kind of what I'm thinking about doing with our wage package and our benefit
Mhm.
package, is making it so good that people feel really dumb if they say no.
Right.
Because I know there's guys out there that are really good and they're working for other contractors,
Mhm.
and the only reason they stay there is because 'cause they're comfortable.
Yes. Yeah, they don't wanna change, they don't wanna learn a new system and
Yeah, but
whatever.
if you pay enough, they'll get uncomfortable to go
Mhm.
make way more money, right?
Mhm. Especially
So
when really they won't have to get on that uncomfortable in the long run
yeah,
because
yeah. And the thing is I know to them because those guys are working like commercial construction or new
yeah.
construction, so it seems really uncomfortable to come to service
Mhm.
work. You know, at
Mhm.
least that's how like our jive is. There's a ton of commercial construction plumbers and
Mhm.
there's very little service plumbers. So we're
Right.
stealing commercial plumbers and we're bringing them over and teaching them how to do service, right?
Right.
And I know there's really good guys over there, and that seems really scary for them to come over to service, but at the end of the
Sure.
day, it's not that bad.
No, especially because your systems are really good that it helps a lot of guys who might not have a ton of, like, natural sales talent to, like, give them a leg up, whether it's Service
Yeah.
Titan providing options for them or just good
Yep.
training and a good atmosphere where all your guys are pretty good at it.
Yep.
So they'll have a lot of help when they get there. It's just getting them there.
Yeah. Yeah. So all of that starts back at a calculator.
Mhm.
And if I didn't have my calculator and I couldn't see the data, then I wouldn't know to come back, like that I could make that shift in my
Yeah.
business
Yeah.
and potentially build a culture and a team of A players. And then
Mhm.
at the end of the day, I make more money.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah, and that's crazy because that just comes from a pricing calculator.
Yes.
Um,
Yep.
In your experience, how many people who have you've seen them get a pricing calculator, them
Uh-huh.
calculate their hourly rate, how many of those people still use that as a tool where they just have it in their toolkit constantly like you do?
I'm not really sure. So I mean, I teach that to anybody that I'm gonna, counsel. I would say I always have them keep two hourly rate calculators. I have them keep
Yeah.
one that is set at like, we talk about breakpoints a lot.
Mhm.
Um, I set it at their last breakpoint, right? So like for me, my last breakpoint was when I hired my general manager at
Mhm.
6 guys. So I have a calculator to this day that I keep up to date of what it would cost me to run a 6-man shop.
Mhm.
And that's what my hourly rate is based off of.
Mhm.
Because when I gained guy number 7, guy number 8, and guy number 9, I just gained a lot of margin. So I could actually charge
Yeah.
less,
Yeah.
but I don't want to charge less.
Right.
I just want to take that risk away and gain that margin. Right.
Right. Right.
And so then I have a calculator that's set at how many guys I actually have plus my
Mhm.
current expenses to make sure that I still have that margin. And
Yes.
I can measure my margin that way, right?
Mhm.
So now I know how much it cost me at my break point, how much it costs me right now. I know what my margin is. I know if I need to discount, I can. I
Mhm.
have accurate numbers on how much I actually need to bill out,
Mhm.
and it's just the way to go. So like somebody starting out, I would say, okay, let's start have a calculator with all your current expenses plus how many vehicles you have actually billing out today.
Mhm.
But then I also want you to fill out a calculator and pretend like you have 3 guys, a shop, 4 trucks, a CSR, a CRM. You're doing enough marketing for 3 guys and all that stuff
Mhm.
because I want you to price like you have all that stuff so that you can
Right.
get there, right?
Yes.
And
So
that's
you're
what I
not playing
call
catch
like,
up.
yeah, and that's what I call barrier to entry, right?
Mm. Mhm.
Anybody who wants to come in and start a real plumbing business and offer a real service, they're going to have to hit that barrier of entry.
Mhm.
They're going to have to charge what you're charging in order to provide that level of service to the customer.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, knowing that number, right? So then they're pricing like they're at 3 guys. Well, when they get to 3 guys, now they can make that a really accurate calculator. And then
Mhm.
when they add their 4th guy in, they gain a little margin. They add
Yep.
their 5th guy in, they gain a little margin. I say
Mhm.
this a lot. But just knowing, right? They're not gonna like when you're priced at 3 guys, let's say you're $400 an hour.
Mhm.
And when you add your 4th or 5th guy, your hourly rate might in your calculator might drop to 350,
Right.
320,
Yep.
right?
Mhm.
But you want to keep charging 400.
Mhm.
So, but then you also want to be able to say, okay, well, at 400 with my current expenses, how many hours do I need to bill out
Mhm.
in order to cover all my expenses, in order to
Yep.
make 10% profit? Because how many hours you need to bill out is actually going to go, like the ratio is going to go down to how many guys you have.
Yes.
Like when you first start out, it might be like each guy needs to sell 5 hours, but then as you scale, maybe each guy needs to sell 3 hours.
Yep.
So, and then just knowing that, super
Yeah.
powerful.
It really influences when you can make decisions and like,
Yep.
oh, I could actually do this because, you know, one of the common things is like, how do I know when I'm ready to hire another guy? What if I can't keep him busy? But then
Right.
when your hourly rate calculator can tell you like he's only got to sell 2 hours per day.
Yeah.
Do you think that at your current call volume, just doing what you're doing, could you keep him busy? Like, oh,
Yeah.
well, yeah, I guess I could. Like, yeah. And like we can add more marketing and then like see how much that increases. Okay, so he's got
Yeah.
to sell 2.6 hours per day.
Yeah.
And it's just eye opening because then it takes away this like, oh no, like he's gonna like we're not gonna get enough work and we're screwed. It's like, wow,
Yeah.
is that true? Judging
The
by what the
cool part
numbers say?
about that is if you're working 8 hours a day and you can hire another guy and he's only got to sell 2 hours a day, that means he can work 8 hours a day. And
Mhm.
then you can only sell 2 hours a day. And then
Yes.
you can start working on your business, right?
Yeah.
That's the beauty of it. So you might be
Yes.
able to hire people way sooner than you think.
Mhm.
I think that as soon as you are busy all day, you should hire another guy.
Hmm.
Like if you're busy, hire another guy. If that means you got to do more marketing, then go do more marketing. Like raise your marketing budget, hire another guy, get him in there and make it happen. Like I think every single guy I hired him and said to myself, crap, how am I gonna keep this guy busy? Right. I
Yeah.
hired him before I needed him because the opportunity presented itself.
Yeah.
And I was like, I know it's hard to get guys. I am not gonna let this pass
Yeah.
up. So I just hired him. And then I said, okay, if I need more work, what do I gotta do?
Mhm.
I gotta either spend more on the marketing I'm doing, or I need to do other forms of marketing.
Mhm.
Right. So I'd go to my marketing company. I'd say, can I spend more on the marketing I'm already doing? And they'd say, yeah, you could spend more here, 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 here. Or they'd say no. And I'd say, what other kind of marketing can we do? Because I
Yeah.
just hired this guy and I want him to be busy. Right.
Yeah. Yep.
And so we would just do it. And then lo and behold, that guy would start, we'd get him trained up, and then we'd be busy as all get out.
Yep. Yeah. Sure.
Right. It's
Hmm.
just how it goes. Or
Mhm.
we'd be dead for like 2 weeks and that guy would be twiddling his thumbs and I'd be over there freaking out. But like it always worked out in the end.
Yeah.
And hiring guys before I needed them ended up saving my butt a lot.
Sure. Because then when you were mega busy, you weren't booked out like 2 weeks because you
Right.
had the extra help to
Had
actually
the
be able to
extra
do what you
help.
wanted to do.
And then other guys, I had times where I hired like 2 guys and I didn't have work for them, but then one of my guys quit.
Yep.
And I was like, dang, I'm glad I hired 2 guys, not
Yeah.
just one of them, right?
Yeah. Huh.
Because now I'm not scrambling.
Yeah.
Yep. Saved my butt a lot.
Man. Yeah. So don't undervalue the pricing calculator. That's what I'm hearing. That.
It's
And also
like,
don't use it once and then just, okay, cool. I'll come back. I'll revisit this in another 6 months.
yeah, I think the pricing calculator is one of the most valuable tools in your business. And I also think that just using it, not just using it to find out your hourly rate, but using it to really understand your numbers,
Yeah.
really know how your numbers work and what things affect your numbers and
Mhm.
how, like at some point in time, when you grow your business, you're going to grow this mess. Okay.
Yeah.
It's just inevitable. You're going to grow this giant mess and then you're going to have to go back in and clean it all up. And that's totally okay.
Mhm.
But when you go back in and clean it all up, you have to understand how to clean it up.
Right. Yeah.
That's where your numbers come in.
Yep.
You got to come in and know, like, if I tweak this over here, it's going to move this number over here. And then I can tweak this over here. And then we're going to gain this much profitability. And that's going to equal this much money at the end of the month.
Mhm.
Like, you got to understand how to do that. And that all starts with like understanding your pricing calculator,
Mhm.
like through and through.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Yeah, that was super helpful. Very practical and
Yeah.
very impactful. Thanks, dude.
No,
Good
thank
job.
you.
Good job. Hey, you're welcome anytime, any Wednesday.